Wow, what a name.
It's a great name.
Otherix, Buffalo, New York.
If you don't want to go through the 77 minutes of the video, take these 3 sentences as their summation. Number 1. Common sense was all that most any of us had to answer the questions of life, aside from brute authorities trying to answer them for us. Number 2. If nothing comes from nothing, then something always was. Number 3. It is finding out what it was, a thing that always was, that is the satisfaction of any of us with common sense enough to follow through with what a thing that always was had to be.
Be, breathe, live, wish. How did these begin? How? How and why?
Why? Someone online gave the insight: when you were in school and your teacher asked you all in the class a question, you were never allowed to answer, "That's a stupid question." Science has told us repeatedly in every way, why is a stupid question. Stupid question. Science came from logic, and logic came from common sense. And what science cannot answer, logic can. But without university education or experts at hand, the common man has and must rely on the simple logic of common sense to answer the questions of life, including the great questions. Why? Why do I exist? Why does anything exist? Why existing at all? Climb aboard for the road trip to the big answer to why. The crowds of so-called scientists say their little bit of knowing how is enough to dismiss asking why. But the very core of every person and the universe itself, demanding attention and answer, is why. Listen up! So many things we take for granted, having never thought them through at all. To get by and stay with the crowd and not suffer by being an outcast too awfully much, we take in a whole body of fact as fact. But when that body of fact is not contained within it, a rock-hard answer to why that knocks it against the wall and meets it right where it lives, with information that justifies why it was such a huge question to begin with, it's time to either crouch back down in that chair of yours and tell yourself for the million-billionth time to shut up and be satisfied with the cheap and unsatisfactory answer that we all have, or to send yourself on that wild quest for the big answer. Let's start from scratch. Let's start with nothing. Can something come from nothing? And I appeal only to the common sense of common men for an answer, not some convoluted, perverted, alienated logic of some professorial thinking machines housed in universities. Most of us mentally competent men and women, disabused of indoctrinational nonsense, would readily say, on the basis of common sense alone, after giving the question a cursory glance and a few moments' thought, no, something cannot come from nothing. Matter of fact, and even more succinctly, we'd say, nothing comes from nothing. I'm speaking from common sense. I'm putting myself in the shoes of every man, of every human who ever saw the light of day. I'm saying if each of us has wondered why, as we looked above to the starry heavens at night, why, as we contemplated the difficulties visiting an otherwise wonderful life, if each of us has why, then each of us has been given the tools to answer it. Each of us, to not have to accept the answers someone else has hammer and influence to press upon us. I say common sense alone can get us there. What? No mystic revelations? No voice guiding us into the darkness of the great unknown and mesmerizing our minds with secrets, ancient secrets, commanding us to believe, only believe, and to trust the voice of the invisible beyond? Common sense, plain, tried, and true, saves us from such a fix. And anywho, we'd be testing such voices with common sense anyway, unless our lot is to be unthinking sheep. We'd better keep in mind, we are actually before the Big Bang. This is where we are at in our thinking trip, our bus on the thought experiment. If nothing comes from nothing, then something always was. Don't ask me for the proof. I'm running on common sense alone. Nothing comes from nothing. I have not much more to say except what comes easily from it. Oh, here's something. If something could come from nothing, anything could come from nothing. Anything. Anything. If logic does not apply at the beginning of things, why should it be of any use, as any authority, in any situation, anywhere, in anything later on? If the foundation of the building has no confirmation from the plumb line and level, why should the windows, the door jambs, the ceiling rafters, or any other part of that house conform? The few times they would be happenstance, luck, and at the whim of drunken craftsmen, common sense. So far it has not seen one thing come from no thing. If nothing comes from nothing, then something always was. Then something always was. Something has always been. Something has always existed. And many dismiss it and are left in an illogical limbo of no certain form. It can take the form of something coming from nothing. It can take the form of logic not necessarily being present at the start of things. It can take the form of needing to explain everything by particles and physics and arcane equations indecipherable to the common man. It can take the form of only the experts know, and the experts don't know. Indeed, it takes the form of experts loudly and proudly pronouncing, quote, "We don't know." It takes the form of being told by the experts that all they are is a well-ordered stack of chemicals. Therefore, existing is no big deal. It takes the form of why, having no answer. So don't even ask. It's some aberration, some unworkable mutant strain of thinking that got into the thinking things, us. And that the realities of time and chance and struggle for survival held no place except in the quote-unquote hearts of aberrant individuals and religions that prey on such sickness, indeed on such misaligned creatures. But who is actually surviving without knowing why? I know why. I started with something that has always been. How did I get there? How did I get to such seemingly transcendent territory? Such a fertile factoid. One step. Nothing comes from nothing. Many dismiss it, and as we have seen, are left in their muddle and malaise, with no certain answers, indeed no way of getting certain answers to the larger questions of life, personhood, existence, and why. So they must dismiss them. Therefore, they are empty-headed as well as illogical. so they must wear the reputations and confirmations of wise men and heads full of knowledge, and the arbiters and protectors and referees of logic itself. Something has always been. It did not come from nothing. Nothing comes from nothing. It did not come from something else. It was first. All common sense. Solid common sense. We're not playing the game of only the experts know. Only the experts can go there. Because many a man in centuries past, and perhaps even now, had no experts available. He was left on his own, trusting no one with this treasure in his hand. This treasure to answer why. He'd seen others, his fellow men, denigrate and dismiss it, so to him, they were lesser souls, lesser men. Why truly answered is knowing a secret that no one else knows, but that lays in plain sight, so that no one can harass you for keeping such a wonderful thing to yourself. And what? Guess what? Most everyone around you, and most likely you yourself, have answered that why with a half answer. With why truly answered, you'll have a tiger in your tank, rather than just some half-answered picture of a pussycat in your wallet to pick out and show timidly whenever you're asked for your credentials of your personhood. There is a self-existent thing, a thing that always was, that did not come from something else, that did not come from nothing. There is a self-existent thing. Since my premise is that every major question of existence can be answered by any common man using common sense, why am I speaking? Why, if any common, warm-blooded, red-blooded human can answer the major questions using common sense, why me? Why am I here talking to you with prepared remarks on this certain topic? I'm here to speak up for common sense. Common sense has its enemies. And sometimes on some topics, among some groups of people, its enemies hold sway, bear influence, rule and exercise dominion, and occupy the place of authority. Standing my ground, I enlist the observations of men. Every man is an island. And the sense that is common is the sea between us. I speak up for common sense and deliver it with a satisfied soul, a satisfied mind, a satisfied heart. Who of all mankind, of friend and stranger, other than me, has these three? Go, listen to them. I speak for common sense because every man does not. Don't get me wrong, there are some that do, but every man? No. There are many in whom stupidity reigns. We, of common sense, share in the atmosphere of a wonderful club. And since the thing that always was, common sense lays open the possibility that it will never be equaled, let alone surpassed, not to speak of being stopped. Therefore, we must be aware that that thing that always was may still yet be. If so, who may find it? Let's not lay aside common sense just yet. Our surest way of getting there, discerning, and yes, finding it, is in the continuation of our journey by staying on the bus, driven by our driver, safe, reliable, and courteous common sense. Yes. What are we looking for? What will be its shape, its character, its characteristics, and of most importance now, as our next question, in the midst of all of these, how many were there? Or shall I say, are there? Let's go to the videotape. What other questions are there? How many first things are there? For one thing, how many? You mean, is there some rule somehow, some way that there can't be more than one first thing? Yes, there is a rule. We'll get to it after the evidence slaps us around. Man, I thought we were getting to the first thing. One first thing. And now you're saying, is it reasonable that there was just one first thing? To plant our feet on that. Now we get into the evidence. Remember I told you that there's evidence of the first thing? Yeah, I remember that. Where would the evidence be? Here's one piece of evidence. Yeah, well. Huh? What do you mean? Huh? One finger. Yeah. No, it's one finger. Yeah. There's another one. There's another piece of evidence. What? A bird out there? Yeah. One bird. There's another one. But all those trees out there, there's a cluster of trees. One cluster of trees. There's one tree there also in the middle of them. What's so special about that one? Nothing. I'm trying to get my mind just a little bit around what you're saying, but, well, stay with me just for one more moment or two. Okay? All right, I'm not going anywhere. One sun in the sky. One of millions and millions and millions of suns. All in our one galaxy. And millions of galaxies all in our one universe. One raindrop of the many raindrops on one window pane. One word from my mouth at any one time. Putting together one sentence. Expressing one thought. Yeah. Yep. Pretty incredible. Yeah. I'd say that's pretty incredible. Well, where does all this oneness come from? I never even thought about that kind of question. Just thought that's the way things are. Oh, it's the way things are, but we're answering why do things exist. Don't you think the way things are kind of applies to that question? Just a little bit? I guess you got a point there. So where does this characteristic come from that is so widespread, so in your face all around us, everywhere, that we don't even think about it, that we're blind to it? But we use it every day. We use it in everything we say, everything we encounter. So how is it? Does it make sense that things start out with two or more? First thing. No. And if they did start out with two or more, when would oneness ever be established as a characteristic? Ever. Never would. It would be just some kind of put on, rather than being the very fabric of each thing. There is a thing about one which is upon everything. Each and everything is a piece of evidence that things started with one first thing. That wave of being one is set upon each and everything from one first thing sounding it. One could never exist as you, as one person, as you being one thing, one consciousness, one awareness, one focus with two eyes to see it, one breathing organism with heart, soul, lungs, liver, guts, gets, legs, arms, hair and head, hand and feet, and all the rest. One could not be right now in you unless one powerful one had been at the start. Otherwise, the full strength of one could never be established. Is there some rule somehow, some way that there can't be more than one first thing? Yep. One can stand alone, but two or more always need one, since two or more are always two or more ones.